Next is going to be a QA session. We're running a few minutes behind our schedule, but we still, I believe, have about 30 minutes for question and answers and perhaps brief comments, if you will. And you can raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question of our speakers here. Please go.
I thought everybody did a very good job of supporting the points that they made. Gary, I would like to ask if you could elaborate on one that I thought got a little less attention in your talk. You made a good argument for why you do not think Iran would use nuclear weapons against Israel, for example. But I thought you didn't really explain why you thought they would not share weapons with other parties, and that means clandestinely and with unofficial groups and in ways that could be used, say, against Western targets without it being totally obvious that it came from Iran.
Because I believe that the Islamic Republic, like most other regimes, is all interested in survival, regime survival. And if there's even a 1% chance that their decision to share nuclear technology with terrorist groups will be traced back to Iran, they would not do it. They would not do it because they recognize that it will bring about horrendous consequences for themselves in the first place. So it will undermine the entire objective, which is to sustain their hold on power. And that's why I don't believe they're likely to share with terrorist groups. But there's the issue of Pakistan, of course. Pakistan seems to do everything wrong and get away with it. Because Pakistan is a staunch ally of the United States. They, actually with the approval of the United States, they fund the Taliban through Saudi help. They build nuclear weapons. They help terrorist groups, but they get away with it. I wonder what's going to happen if Musharraf is overthrown in Pakistan. I think Islamists who could be the chief beneficiary of instability in Pakistan are much more likely than Iranian clerics to share their nuclear technology, even nuclear weapons, with extremist groups. But nobody seems to give a damn about Pakistan. We concentrate our efforts and our attention on Iran.
You're next. Oh, please go ahead.
You spoke about the Iranian sentiment on the street for Americans, and you didn't elaborate on why is it that Iranians who know that the American government has never really had their best interests at heart still have affection and admiration for America?
Because Iran.
Can you repeat the question, please?
What was the
Yes, sir.
The
question was, what accounts for the fact that the Iranian street is not anti-American? I say the fact, although I've never conducted a survey. So I'm speaking based on anecdotal evidence and also based on surveys that have been conducted inside Iran. A few years ago, there was a survey that was conducted in Iran by, among other people, Mr. Abbas Abdi, which indicated that 80% of the residents of Tehran are favorably disposed towards having relations with the United States. So, for the simple reason that most Iranians are not old enough to remember indiscretions that were perpetrated against Iran by the United States. They don't remember what happened back in 1953 when the CIA helped to engineer a coup d'etat against Iran's liberally inclined Prime Minister Mossadegh, and they have no recollection of what happened during the time of the Shah and the Shah's intimate ties and associations with the United States. Okay? And also, we have to remember that anti-Americanism tends to be highest in regimes that are perceived as being beholden to the United States. Corrupt, repressive regimes in the area that are perceived as doing the bidding for the United States. And you can accuse the Islamic Republic of 1,001 faults, but being beholden to the United States is not one. Moreover, anti-Americanism also tends to be most rampant because of U.S. policy towards Palestine and Israel, and the perception that the United States is anything but even-handed. But we have to remember that Iranians are not Arabs. And although many of them sympathize with the Palestinians, the Palestinian issue in Iran is not, in my opinion, the overriding concern for most people in the streets of Tehran. To the contrary, they say that why should we give our precious resources to the Palestinians and to the Syrians when we ourselves here are suffering and struggling to make ends meet? The hell with the Palestinians. They say this, and I've heard it myself many times in the streets of Tehran. Additionally, there is the issue of Iraq. And you have to remember that most Iranians celebrated when Saddam Hussein was overthrown. There was no law lost between Iran and Iraq, at least Iraq under Saddam Hussein. There was a very bitter and bloody war between the two countries in the course of the 1980s. More than 1 million people, most of them Iranians, died as a result of this war. So most Iranians were not that upset to see Saddam go. And at that time, actually, you also heard certain sentiments in the streets welcoming American intervention in Iran. This is not something that I approve. I'm just telling you the facts as I heard them. But now, of course, given the fiasco in Iraq and what the United States has done in Iraq, you no longer hear these things. So these factors put together, I think, help us to explain why the Iranian street is not as anti-American as the Pakistani street or the Saudi Arabian street or the Egyptian street and so forth. But if you bomb the hell out of them, then I assure you that they will have a change of heart, and Iranians are very nationalistic. The young people in Iran, who constitute 70% of the population, are even more nationalistic than their parents' generation. And they would react violently, as Mr. Ellsberg was saying.